Having seen what is rebalancing and how to rebalance and when to rebalance, let us see what is going to have the greatest impact on your rebalancing. So first of all, do you have enough time to do all this exercise of saying these are the rules, I will stick to the rules, I will write down the rules. When you make rules and stick to them, you save a lot of stress and energy, right? So the book Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande really works. You have a checklist, you stick to it. But remember, sticking to your checklist and rebalancing will also have tax implications. It will also involve a lot of work, right? So it depends on the kind of assets. Like suppose you have National Savings Certificate and PPF and things like that. It's not really much of rebalancing that you need to do, right? You can only decide to pump more money or less money into it, but you can't really do much of rebalancing. You cannot withdraw from a PPF, right? Of course, you can withdraw after a few years, but that's not something which you will do. You may rebalance with debt funds rather than with assets like PPF. So at some stage you may realize saying, boss, I'm not going to do this. It's too much of a core, so I will not do it. Then tax implication is there, and your own judgment. Sometimes your judgment says, the equity boom has just started. Let me not rebalance now. Ultimately, your portfolio is an impact of all of this playing, and the question is, do you find enough time for this? Because this is dull and boring. So even Markowitz did not do this for his own portfolio, but he knew the logic and the reason for how it is to be done so well that he got a Nobel Prize for it, right? So some people some institutional investors maybe doing a rebalancing on a very mechanical, methodical, rule based on a weekly basis. Somebody could be doing it on a monthly basis. I do think that if you don't want to get bored doing it, you should do once in a year or maybe once in 2 years. Once in 5 years is too far away, or you should do it once in 2 years, and or on the triggering of an event. If there is one commodity which has boomed a lot, you may have to sell it. That is based on the market, not based on your personal asset allocation. That is very important in case your portfolio which has got banking, metals separately. Maybe these are ETFs, maybe you will sell, maybe you will not sell, right? So find out whether you have time. Like if you have a good job, if you have a proper job which is paying you a salary, or you have a proper business, very unlikely that you will find time for this. Some jobs give you a good salary and allow you a lot of time for your hobbies, and therefore you can pursue it as a hobby and it may pay for it tomorrow. You may be happy to do a course on how asset allocation is to be done. Maybe you will learn so much about asset allocation. Otherwise, if you do it once in a year, it should be fine. And if very clearly, if you're doing this, somebody has forced you to do this, your father had a portfolio and you're doing it, very unlikely that you will do it yourself. Then you're better off selling off everything and putting in balance advantage fund, something which I will never do, because I think I can do my own rebalancing. Because anyway, I don't do much of rebalancing. I'm 80-90% in equity, and during a bad time I may be 80% in equity. During good times I'll be 90% in equity. I'll never go to 30% in equity or things like that, at least as of now. As I get older, maybe I will, because I may not have the capacity to manage the complexities of a portfolio. I think that will happen. So if you have a higher tolerance for volatility like I have, then you can let the portfolio run longer, because this also has to reconcile to buying some shares and holding on to those shares for a pretty long period. I've held Biocon for a long period, I've held Wipro for a long period, but I've also sold some Wipro, bought it back. I've held Coromandel for a long time, I've held Cholamandalam for a long time. These are scripts which I've held for 20-30 years. Somewhere you make money, somewhere you lose money, somewhere you sell at a top, somewhere you buy at a bottom. Somewhere you keep trading, like I'm happy to buy a particular share at say 300 and happy to sell it at 515. So I sell it at 515 and I don't buy it at 505 or 500, right? I just wait for it to come down. If it comes down, I buy, or I say just buy, goodbye. I don't need to keep on trading in every share. So you can do a combination of all this. Remember that there is nothing perfect, and you're doing asset allocation to reduce your risk, not to increase your return. So sometimes you will be right, sometimes you will be wrong, sometimes you sell halfway through a cycle, somewhere you are able to catch the top of a sugar cycle or a commodity or a steel cycle or any metal cycle or things like that. So it doesn't really matter too much. All assets will fluctuate. Sometimes bond fluctuates, sometimes equity fluctuates, sometimes Japanese equity fluctuates, sometimes US equity fluctuates. If you have a portfolio which has got all that, take time, take a deep breath, do it, but don't worry too much about your outcomes. You will never get perfect outcomes, right? There will always be, sometimes you feel, oh, I should have waited. Sometimes you feel, oh, I reached this party too early. All these feelings will happen because of your asset allocation. Or you decide that now I'm 60 years of age and I think this money is adequate for me to meet all my requirements and my children's requirements. So I will take everything, put it into annuity and live off my annuity. Any of these combinations are possible. You decide at what stage you are. And if you are a person like me who is not so keen to do it regularly, keep a simple plan and stick to it. Say, I need next 10 years expenses to be in bonds. Other than that, it can be in equity, international equity, domestic equity, large cap, mid cap. I'm completely indifferent to it. But within my equity assets, I will not reallocate too much. I will sell everything when I need the money for buying an annuity. So I could do a 10-year run on a pharma fund or a 12-year run on a metal fund. I will take that view. So doing all this is not going to be very easy. If you don't like doing it, have a simple plan. That's what makes sense. Thank you.